The responsibility of a virtuous friend. In the context of spiritual training, the participation and support by a good companion in various activities is an external condition. An important factor here is the mutual influence people have on each other in the area of thoughts, opinions, attitudes, values, and understanding, which collectively are called views, deity. If these ideas, attitudes, values, and forms of understanding are incorrect and harmful, they are known as wrong view, miccha deity, while if they are correct, wholesome, and beneficial, they are called right view, samaditi. A person who encourages someone to have wrong view is a bad friend, papamita, while a person who encourages someone to have right view is a good friend, a good and true friend, kalyanamita. Often a person's mentors at home or school, for instance, a person's parents and teachers have less influence than the friends the person plays and associates with. But it also happens frequently that a person's friends living nearby have less influence than the people who live far away, both in physical distance and in time, and who possess the power to reach a person's heart. The companions who travel via the mass media, say through channels of entertainment and books, including biographies of great people whose qualities one emulates. The factor allowing someone to exert an influence on others, or the bridge between the external companion and another person's mind, is belief, confidence, admiration, and inspiration, which together are referred to as faith, sada. When faith is generated, one can be influenced by another, even though he or she lives far away and is not a close associate. Some people may live close to home, but if one has no confidence in them, they will have little influence. Therefore, those who have the responsibility of instructing others and imparting right view should first generate faith and confidence in others. A basic principle in spiritual training is for a virtuous friend to act as a catalyst for faith. Association with wise and honest people is a condition for the arising of faith. Although one may be good and wise, if one is unable to generate faith and confidence in others, one still does not qualify as a virtuous friend, kalyanamitta, nor has a true connection with others been established. When faith is generated and another person is receptive, one can help guide the person's thoughts and behavior. Initially, the person may simply imitate one's behavior, or one can engender a correct form of thinking, which is another level of spiritual practice. The decisive factor determining whether one fulfills the responsibility of a virtuous friend is whether the person one associates with arrives at right view. A technical and doctrinal explanation of right view, samadhi, will be presented in the following chapter. As an introduction, it is useful here to point out that the virtuous and correct views Opinions, values, and forms of understanding, which are collectively called right view, have many details and particulars, and may be explained in many different ways. An explanation of the formal teachings, however, reveals that these views, etc., can be distilled into two kinds. 1. Beliefs, views, perspectives, and forms of understanding which are correct, wholesome, and rational, and which are related to matters of ethics, to good and bad behavior, and to the corresponding fruits of such actions, epitomized by the saying, one reaps as one sows. Further examples of this kind of view are a trust in virtue, say the merits of one's mother and father, and a belief in line with a religious teaching, say the teaching on the next life. In brief, one can define this as a view in accord with Dhamma, or a belief in the law of karma, which engenders a sense of responsibility in regard to one's actions. The precise term for this view is kammasakatayana, the knowledge of being an owner of one's deeds. This mundane right view, lokiya samaditi, arising from an understanding of cause and effect, and instilled by teachings passed down in one's community. It generates righteous, virtuous behavior and leads to a peaceful, well-ordered society. 2. Views and forms of understanding about the world, about life, or about conditioned phenomena, which accord with truth, which accord with the true nature of phenomena, and with the natural law of causality. By this understanding, a person recognizes how to relate to things in the world correctly. For example, one understands that all conditioned things arise from the convergence of interconnected factors. They exist according to the interrelationship of causes and conditions, and therefore they are unstable, impermanent, and unsustainable. Their associated factors are in a constant state of conflict and pressure. These things are not truly independent. They cannot be truly owned by anyone, and they are ultimately not subject to anyone's desires and wishes. When things exist in this way, how should we relate to them? Is it appropriate to be totally engrossed with conditioned things, or to dedicate one's life to pursuing them? Every human being, too, is a conditioned phenomenon and subject to the same natural laws. We are all companions in old age, sickness, and death. As a consequence, how should we relate to one another? This form of understanding arises through proper discernment, reflection, and consideration of things, in accord with reality and with the causal nature of things. It is called right view, aligned with transcendent understanding, although at the beginning it is still a mundane form of understanding. It is on the path to and will develop to transcendent right view, Lokuttara Samadhi. The first kind of right view is called Kammasakata Samadhi, or Kammasakatayana, the knowledge of how people are the owners of their intentional actions, karma. This is the ability to recognize and distinguish one's own volitional actions. This knowledge generates a sense of responsibility in respect to one's actions. It is right view on the level of righteous conduct, Dhamma Chariya, or in relation to the wholesome courses of action, kusala kama pata. It is a benefit or a goal on both the immediate mundane level, dittadami kata, and the refined spiritual level, samparayikata, and it is the basis for the supreme good, paramatta. The second kind of right view is classified as insight right view, vipassana samadhi. In the Pali Canon, it is referred to as Satcha Nu Lomikayana, knowledge consistent with truth, or knowledge in line with truth. It leads to awakening. It leads directly to the supreme good. It is evident here that the essential kind of right view leading to the highest goal of Buddhism is the second kind of knowledge in line with truth. All Buddhists, regardless of whether they aim directly for this highest goal or not, should be careful not to stop at the first kind of right view. Rather, they should advance to the second kind by cultivating this form of wisdom, at least to an initial degree. This is because this kind of right view reduces and alleviates greed, hatred, and delusion. It helps to establish an improved relationship to the world. It makes the mind clear and bright, and it increases happiness. It reduces oppression, conflict, and distress in the world more effectively than by using the method of restraint and control that is inherent in a moral discipline. It benefits both an individual and society as a whole. When one analyzes the sequence of events, one sees that the association with good persons, or to have a virtuous friend, leads to the opportunity to hear the Dhamma, to receive teachings, either directly or indirectly. When the teaching of Dhamma truly conforms to the principles of truth and goodness, and the teaching is presented in a well-reasoned, coherent way, faith will arise in the person who receives the teaching. Association with a wise person, to have a virtuous friend, to listen to the Dhamma, to faith. Here we come to a vital point in spiritual training or practice. The connection between an external social factor and an internal personal factor. The external factor is learning from others, parato gosa. Here meaning to have a virtuous friend, kalyana mita. On its own, it results in faith and leads only to mundane right view, lokiya samadhi. If one only reaches this stage, then one's spiritual training is incomplete, and one will not reach the highest goal of Buddhism. When one abides only at the level of faith, one still relies on one's teachers, one's virtuous friends, and one's behavior is still one of following an example or of imitation. One has not yet gained deep knowledge and clear vision. One has still not reached complete liberation. The solution is to find a bridge to arrive at the internal personal factor of wise reflection, yoniso manasikara. A person should summon and generate wise reflection to replace faith, because wise reflection leads to transcendent right view, to true knowledge, and to the supreme goal of Buddhism. The external factor of a virtuous friend enables this link to the internal factor of wise reflection, and it is considered a responsibility of a virtuous friend to help others generate wise reflection within themselves. A good teacher should not settle for the target of generating faith in the student, but should use this faith to light the spark of wise reflection. A good teacher uses faith as a link in teaching the Dhamma. Having instilled confidence, he or she teaches the Dhamma so that the listener or pupil rouses wise reflection. The ability to reflect and to see all things according to the truth and in line with causality. Once wise reflection has been generated, the natural process of awakening unfolds until it reaches its culmination. During this time, the virtuous friend may help support and guide this wise reflection by offering regular Dhamma teachings. When the external factor is linked to the internal factor, when learning from others supports wise reflection, the unawakened person who is receptive to teaching is able to advance in Dhamma training and practice, unless one is a prodigy who initiates wise reflection spontaneously, or one is a simpleton who is unable to think for oneself. In Buddha Dhamma, a virtuous teacher does not assist others in order to foster devotion or a personal attachment, as such a relationship may only lead to copying the teacher's beliefs and conduct. A virtuous friend acts not so that others form a personal relationship with the teacher, but acts merely as a medium to help others connect to their own lives and their surroundings, to point out how they may reflect upon things according to truth, and discover for themselves how to relate to the world correctly. The process is expanded thus. Association with a wise person, to have a virtuous friend, to listen to the Dhamma, to faith, to wise reflection, Gunaiswa Manasikara. In the teaching on wisdom development, or among the factors leading to stream entry, however, the Buddha does not mention faith. It may be that in this context he considered faith to be a minor or subsidiary factor, and that it does not require emphasis. The process of wisdom development, or the process involving the factors leading to stream entry, is thus illustrated thus. Association with a wise person, to have a virtuous friend, to listening to the Dhamma, to wise reflection, Yoneso Manasikara, to practice conforming to the truth. Although they do not explicitly mention wise reflection, the following sutta passages describe the style of instruction of virtuous friends, who provide an independence to their pupils, allowing them to realize the truth by themselves. Gandhiya. I have such confidence in Master Gautama. Now is Master Gautama capable of teaching me the Dhamma in such a way that I might rise up from this seat cured of my blindness. The Buddha. Then, Gandhiya, associate with virtuous people. When you associate with virtuous people, you will hear the true Dhamma. When you hear the true Dhamma, you will practice in accord with the true Dhamma. When you practice in accord with the true Dhamma, you will know and see for yourself thus. These are the diseases, tumors, and piercing darts of the mind. But here these diseases, tumors, and darts cease without remainder. That is, with the cessation of one's clinging comes cessation of becoming. With the cessation of becoming, sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair cease. Such is the cessation of this whole mass of suffering. Brahman Dotaka, I bow down and honor you, sir, he who possesses the eye of wisdom, the all-seeing one. Please, man of Sakya, free me from confusion. The Buddha, see here, Dotaka, I am not able to free anyone in the world from confusion. When you have clearly understood the sublime Dhamma, you will cross over the ocean of defilements by yourself. In the case that a virtuous friend has fulfilled the initial responsibility of recognizing the vital independence of other practitioners, it is then important for him or her to emphasize the personal duties of these practitioners so that they benefit in the optimum way from this independence. The Buddha therefore performed another responsibility of a virtuous friend, that of enjoining his disciples to perform their personal duties well, as can be seen by the numerous teachings he gave on listening to the Dhamma, conversing on the Dhamma, and seeking guidance and advice. For example, monks, when listening to the true Dhamma, a person endowed with 5 qualities is capable of entering upon the fixed course, consisting in rightness in wholesome qualities. What 5? 1. He does not think disparagingly about the subject being discussed. 2. He does not think disparagingly about the speaker. 3. He does not think disparagingly about himself. 4. He is not distracted. He listens to the Dhamma with one pointed attention. 5. He reflects wisely. The quality here is wise reflection, yuniso manasikara, which is the agent giving rise to knowledge and understanding. This quality does not only pertain to listening to the Dhamma or to verbal instruction, rather it should be applied to every aspect of one's life and in every circumstance, including to one's perception of sense impressions and to one's interaction with phenomena. Wise reflection as a primary agent in spiritual development, taking over from the instruction received from a virtuous friend, is the subject of a following chapter. But before finishing this section on the influence by others, Paratogosa, it seems appropriate to speak some more on the subject of faith, sada, which is a key factor in the discussion so far. The focus here will be on the proper role and practice of faith in the course of bringing suffering to cessation. Appendix 1. 4 bases of social solidarity, Sangha Vatu. 1. Dana, giving, generosity, charity. 2. Piya Vacha, kindly speech. 3. Attacharya, life of service, beneficial conduct. 4. Samanantata, even and equal treatment. This key teaching on the 4 bases of social solidarity, Sangha Vatu, is found frequently in the Pali Canon. One example of the importance the Buddha gave to mutual assistance and to social harmony is the story of Hataka Alawaka, whom the Buddha praised as one of the 2 mastheads of the assembly of laymen. and who was declared foremost among those who support and protect a following by means of the four bases of social solidarity. In the Singalaka Sutta, when the Buddha describes honoring the 6 directions within the noble discipline, Ariya Vinaya, he concludes with these 4 bases of social solidarity. The commentaries define the term Raja, king, majesty, as someone who gladdens the people by way of the 4 bases of solidarity, and state that these 4 bases of solidarity are a form of sublime conduct, brahmacharya. The last factor, samanantata, can cause some problems in interpretation because the origin of this word is unclear and it is translated in different ways. The term samana means even, equal, or common, and thus the term samanatata is often translated as equal to oneself or in common with oneself, i.e. to treat others as one would have them treat oneself. The commentaries generally translate this latter term as in good times and in bad, i.e. to be constant, or as equality and impartiality, expressed, for example, by eating or sitting together. It is related to the term samana kicha, which means to work together or to help one another accomplish a task. The commentary to the Patisambhidamagga gives an alternative definition for samanantata, stating that it means proper discrimination or to place oneself in a correct relationship, i.e. to act appropriately in respect to another's status as lower, equal, or higher than one's self. Jataka commentaries offer yet another definition, stating that it means to be consistent, not to act one way in private and another way in public. For example, to be respectful to one's parents irrespective of whether one is at home or in a public gathering. At the highest level, the Buddha acknowledged the equality among those of similar states of realization. Appendix 2. Commentarial analysis of right view, samadhi. Commentaries provide a more detailed analysis of right view, dividing it into 5 kinds: kama sakata samadhi, jhana samadhi, vipassana samadhi, magga samadhi, and phala samadhi. The first 3 kinds are mundane, the last 2 are transcendent. Of the 2 kinds of right view mentioned in section 5 above, the responsibility of a virtuous friend. This first is equivalent to kama sakata samadhi, while the second is classified as vipassana samadhi. Both of these kinds of right view are thus mundane. The difference is that vipassana samadhi leads to magga samadhi and phala samadhi, which are transcendent, and therefore it is referred to as right view on the path to transcendence. A familiar example of kama sakatayana or kama sakata samadhi is the factor of right view in the teaching on righteous conduct, dhammacharya, or the 10 wholesome courses of action, kusala kamapata. This is a form of right view found both within and outside Buddhism, and it existed even before the time of the Buddha. That is, it is a part of all religious teachings that espouse the doctrine of karma, no matter what teaching is upheld in whichever religious tradition. If this teaching accords with truth, Buddhism acknowledges and accepts it. For more on this subject, see the commentaries to the Vinaya Pitaka and the Majjhima Nikaya. The second of these two commentaries reiterates that both Kama Sakatayana and Satta-nulomika-yana are mundane forms of right view. Satta-nulomika-yana is knowledge consistent with truth, or knowledge in line with truth. It is equivalent to Vipassana-yana. Furthermore, a passage from the commentary to the Majjhima Nikaya presents a different division of fivefold samadhi, namely Vipassana Samadhi, Kamma Sakata Samadhi, Magga Samadhi, Pala Samadhi, and Pachavekkhana Samadhi. Jhana Samadhi is also a form of mundane right view, but it pertains to those individuals who have achieved jhana, and it is not directly related to the subject at hand. Pachavekkhana Samadhi, right view stemming from reflection, is equivalent to right knowledge, samayana, and pertains to those individuals who have realized path and fruit. It too is classified as a mundane form of right view.